Well, we've got a lot of choices, not just in the civic election, but we've got a lot of choices for NDP leader. Of course, Thomas Mulcair, not particularly a friend of the left NDP. Thomas Mulcair, more of a centrist, liberal in Quebec. Took positions against Palestine, took a lot of positions that were very controversial for people. We're following this NDP leadership race on Media Mornings, and this morning we're joined by Guy Fogel. Guy was born in Israel, a longtime socialist, a member of NDP Momentum, and we've reached Guy on Vancouver Island. Good morning, Guy.
Good morning. Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks. We're, of course, following this race. It's Jagmeet was in Vancouver last week with Delhi to Dublin band. A lot of people came out, excited about the music, excited about having a South Asian candidate. We had Nikki Ashton in, Charles Demers kicking things off with some fantastic comedy. Culture, bringing people out. The NDP seems revitalized. That's probably a good thing for the NDP at this point, isn't it?
Yes, it's part of the historical current that's actually sweeping the world. Like we see that in Britain, we saw that in France with the Mélenchon election, and the United States, especially in Washington State, right, where we had some exciting occurrences happening with the 15 campaign, right, which,
Bernie Sanders had these massive rallies, including in Seattle with tens of thousands of people out.
Yeah, rock star stuff. Mm-hmm. And you saw that, in Europe too, right? There's this huge potential for left ideas. In the same way there's a huge potential for right-wing racist populism, unfortunately. It's a very dangerous time to kind of be political, but it's very exciting, right?
It was interesting, the Canadian ambassador to Venezuela yesterday talking about how this is an example of the danger of populism. So I thought that was an interesting choice of language, I guess kind of a nod to Donald Trump, but kind of linking that,
So what's happening in Venezuela, you see right-wing populism, which is fooling a lot of left-wing people all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, the NDP, what are you seeing in terms of the policies? So we know, we just had a program here on our program earlier on the show talking about the violence of austerity. We've just had Christy Clark running kind of a libertarian capitalism, really denying people fundamental rights that people, working class people, had fought for more than a century, and all these, the deconstruction of the welfare state, the structural adjustment to the economy. A lot of harm has been done. What are the NDP candidates offering to respond to that kind of rampant free market capitalism?
Well, they're offering a lot. When you look at the base, it's actually really exciting. Look at how, when it comes to pensions, they're raising really good ideas, making sure it's public. The Liberal government is trying to also privatize pensions. Which housing? They talk about social housing, cooperative housing. That's good music to my ears as a long-time socialist, right? And we talk about free tuition, full health care, including dental. That's like super cool, right? And even when you look at the Ashley campaign, she's actually naming neoliberalism by name, right? And mentioning stuff like, if you privatize it, we nationalize it. There is almost this like opportunism that instead of going to the left, because that's where you get the vote. If you look at Jack Meat, he's feeling at the water, and he's being actually more left, I think, than he wants to be, right? And that's because of the general mood happening. Especially in a place like BC, which is quite, I think, a social democratic consciousness. So in terms of policies, things are looking good. But for us in Momentum, there is also people, we need to talk about a nationalization, or even of starting a crown corporation to do the green shifts that we need to undergo. We need to also talk about some planning, and that we can't get the society we want by just let the market do whatever it wants. And also, unfortunately, among social democrats, a lot of the neoliberal ideology has seeped into their consciousness. And what neoliberalism is actually a race to the bottom. It's been discredited long ago. People are starting to realize that now. And
so when we criticize Thomas Mulcair, You know, that might make some NDP supporters nervous. It might be like, why are you always criticizing? What are you offering? What is the fundamental problem with the way Thomas Mulcair brought the NDP?
He's a neoliberal. That's the fundamental thing. When he came out for a balanced budget, that means he's up for austerity. That means he accepts the logic of capitalism. That means he doesn't believe in resisting, and that believes in making himself redundant, because there's other parties. Actually, other parties are not. They don't want a balanced budget because they don't want to deal with the fallout. Right? Mulcair, what he is, a technocratic professional politician, was parachuted in because they thought they could win the election by just the power of the individual, not by the power of ideas, not by the power of grassroots organization, but the power of movement. They didn't believe that. They wanted to go that Clinton-esque / Blairish shortcut. That what Mulcair believes is, if the press likes me and these magazine writers write things about me, I will win the election. No. That does not work anymore. He's stuck in the old period. The new period is just new rules. It seems like logic is standing on its head. You got to be hardcore. You got to be genuine. You got to even be willing to go all the way for your beliefs. It's not a profession; it's a calling.
Yeah, and that's what Donald Trump did effectively. I remember the night before the election. You know, he was out at 1 o'clock in the morning in Minnesota the night before the election, saying to Minnesota voters, "Hey, working class, I'm your guy." You know, and so he was really speaking directly to working class people's interests, even though, of course, he was lying through his teeth. He was performing truth telling. What people know in their hearts is that the globalization isn't fair. So what are you seeing? You said Jagmeet might be running maybe a bit more uncomfortably to the left than he's used to for Ontario, but things we're here on the left coast. How do you see the candidates lining up? And there are some policy debates, right? Because you've talked about how the NDP has made a mistake, and I think the party strategists, often kind of with middle class inclinations, have distorted the interests of the party. What are the candidates openly discussing? And is there an open discussion differentiating candidates, or is it kind of all we love each other and we're in the mushy middle?
Oh, no, I think there is. I think when it comes to Palestine, Nikki Ashton has actually broached the topic a little bit, right? Actually, Nikki Ashton, I think, has moved considerably further to the left from the first time I met her. I think she's been really inspired by what's happening in Britain and actually mentioning Corbyn by name, which is really cool. Guy Caron, in terms of its policy's obsession with, what's that called? The welfare to the rich, if you want to call it that, the guaranteed wage, right? You could do that, so you could avoid talking about the exploitation and the precarious labor conditions that are imposed upon all working people, especially the young, right? Which never had a time to develop much of a standing in the labor market. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And in terms of Jagmeet, we see a Trudeau wannabe in some ways, but he did mention some good stuff about carding and about incarceration, which, I mean, he deserves some kudos for that. Okay, when we see, what's his name, Angus, right? Which actually, I was we played in a jamboree in Toronto. It was really fun. But he really, he brings it back to the working class, and we gotta respect him for that. He mentioned the struggles of Indigenous rights, right? He's a long-time environmentalist, right? But I don't think he's not articulating the policies. He is showing some restraint in terms of putting forward demands within campaigns, right? So I think people are lining up in an interesting way. Time will tell where things are going to go, because we're in a period now where things are moving fast and people changing quickly, right?
And the important thing here is that when you're talking about and I appreciate, I just for the public record, I support Nikki Ashton, and I've publicly done that. So I just want to make that known as I'm hosting this radio program. We're discussing this, so I want to expose my conflict of interest. But I think the important thing, what I'm trying to make here, the point here is that we actually don't know who will be the leader. I think there's a campaign to have these debates, these policy debates, and there's a desire to have a certain person, and people suggest, Nikki Ashton would be great because, she would rebuild the party from the ground up. It would take a lot of time, but she's the right person. Other people maybe have Jagmeet Singh might be more effective in a race with Justin Trudeau in the short term. So there's different debates, but the key issue here is that it's not first past the post. So people will be having a weighted ballot. So it's important that people do know what they think about Charlie Angus and what they think about Jagmeet and Guy Caron, because it's you vote for your second favorite person, you vote for your third favorite person. So it's important that we actually get to know all these people.
Yeah, and actually, I think it's too bad that Peter Julian quit. He had some really good ideas too. He availed himself really well in debates. But also, every leader that can be pushed. From what I know of Nikki is that she's thinking a lot about what's happening now. She's a work in progress, and she's willing to go far. But I think I'd like to see more articulation in terms of her environmental policy, right? And embracing LEAP, and maybe also connecting that to a social LEAP, right? That we need to move away from capitalism in order to deal with our environmental crisis. And we're having a double catastrophe now of an implosion of the environment and the social system at the same time, right? And we're in a very deep crisis, and the NDP is in a perfect position to really be a beacon right now, right? Mm-hmm. This is not a campaign we should take lightly, and there's a lot of room for contemplation, and I see a much greater degree of honesty with NDP types, that they're not just going to ride the third wave a la Blair.
Yeah.
That they are seriously questioning. The Mulcair stands in a really bad tradition of previous leaders.
We're going to have to leave it there. We've run out of time.
Okay.
But I want to thank you for your analysis. We'll probably have you on. The leadership races moving on through October, so have you back. And thank you for your time.
Okay, it was my pleasure, Erwin. Call me anytime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guy Fogel, we reached him on Vancouver Island. He's a NDP Momentum member. That's a left group caucus within the NDP. This is Media Mornings. My name is Erwin Ostindi. I'm glad to spend it.